Hello everyone and welcome to Autocrat. This is episode 41, Medea's Revenge. We'll be dealing with the end of the story of Jason today. To do that, we need to tell the life story of the daughter of Aetius, Medea.
And it's a story that is so full of drama. So Jason and Medea, you might remember, at the end of episode 39, had returned on the Argo after getting the Golden Fleece, and everything seemed to be going their way, right?
Yeah.
Well, prepare for that to not be a running theme in today's episode.
Okay.
There's a few extra details that we need to cover that take place around about the end of episode 39 before we can start everything going again. When the Argo returned to Iolcus, so coming back with the Golden Fleece to the usurper king Peleus, there was a party. However, Jason's father Aeson wasn't there, as he was getting old and near death. Jason appealed to Medea to take years off his life and give them to his father, because remember, Medea is a sorceress. She herself thought about Jason's love for his father and how she'd abandoned her own, but she hid this and just instead said that Jason's idea of taking years off his life was horrible. So, squashing complicated feelings and just berating Jason instead. Instead, she would just rejuvenate Aeson, because she can just do that, apparently. 3 days later, in the night, Medea walked out of her house and prayed for the goddess Hecate to help her in her magic. She asked for her grandfather's chariot, and it, pulled by dragons, descended from the sky.
I mean, that's nice.
Yeah, her grandfather is the sun god Helios, so that might explain how she has access to mythical creatures pulling a chariot.
I guess.
Medea climbed in and flew to somewhere called Anthedon, where she plucked a plant which increased lifespan. Now, you might be thinking, we need to do some science with this. How do we know this plant actually works?
Yeah, how do we know that?
Well, don't worry. The dragons themselves only inhaled the fumes of the plant, and they immediately shed their skin and became young again. So It does work, according to ancient Greek witchcraft. It's complicated. Once back home, she began a ritual. She created 2 trenches, offered a sheep as a sacrifice, and filled the trenches with wine, blood, and milk. She prayed aloud and asked Jason to go and get Aeson, please. Aeson was made to sleep due to a spell and was laid out on the herb. I assume this is like a bed of the herb and he's been put on top of it rather than just one plant. She lit 3 torches dipped in the sheep blood on 2 altars, and Aeson was purified 3 times with water, 3 times with sulphur, and once with fire. During all of this, she set a potion brewing, which contained plants from the Haemonian Valley, as well as sands washed by Aelianus and stone from the Far East, and some other ingredients like, werewolf guts, owl wings and meat, the scales of a particular water snake, and the liver of a stag. As we've seen before, the Greeks believed stags would live to be very old, so you can see why this might be in this potion. She also added a crow's beak and head, among many other things. So if you want to brew an immortality potion, apparently all you need is the entrails of various animals.
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah. Now, once everything was ready, she casually drained out all of Aeson's blood and replaced it with the potion, which made Aeson young again.
My goodness, she's crazy.
Yeah. But as we've seen from this story, she's also very powerful. It would be a terrible shame if, say, someone were to try and mess with her during this episode.
It would be.
I'm sure that would go very well.
Hopefully nobody will mess with her.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'm not mentioning this for any reason, just a casual thought. Anyway, Dionysus apparently saw all of this and asked Medea to make his nurses young again. So he's so impressed with her, he asks her services as well. Now, all of this was before Peleus died, and before Jason and Medea ended up fleeing to Corinth. By the way, apparently, one legend says humanity arose from fungi due to being fed by rainwater, which I thought was a fun little detail.
It is a fun detail.
I mean, fungi and animals are each other's closest relatives in terms of the kingdoms of life, so they kind of have a point, not they would have known that. That said, we now need to catch up to where we were before, Jason and Medea having left Iolcus after Peleus died.
To do that, we're mainly going to be relying on the famous Euripides play today.
Okay.
We open with the chorus wishing that the event of episode 39 had never been set in motion.
That's already a good start.
Yeah, let's just pretend something didn't happen and something else happens.
Yeah.
They recount that Jason and Medea arrived at the city of Iolcus and Peleus wound up dead, as we saw before.
Ah yes, with the very trigger-happy daughters who thought they were going to make him young again.
Exactly. They fled to Corinth and had 2 sons together, called Pheres and Murmerus.
Okay, interesting name choices.
Yeah, they lived together for 10 years.
Nice.
Well, they lived there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe they moved.
Okay, happy families.
Yeah, nice family, live there, have kids, be happy together.
I'm so happy this is never going to change.
Yeah. However, things don't stay sunshine and roses for the couple forever.
Right.
So, yeah. Jason, as it's said in the play, has shacked up with Glauce, who is the daughter of King Creon of Corinth.
Ah.
Meaning, well, that's not very nice thing to do.
And more importantly, we've now annoyed, I assume, a very powerful sorceress.
When she finds out, I'm sure she won't be annoyed that much, No,
it's just flagrant
she's
betrayal.
Very forgiving.
Yeah, it's just flagrant betrayal of Jason's wedding vows. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, Medea has since been lamenting pretty much non-stop, wailing for the homeland which she abandoned.
Yeah, good point. She did kind of drop everything to be with Jason.
The play starts with the servants discussing the rumor that Creon wants to banish Medea and her 2 sons by Jason. I mean, that's rude.
If there's one thing we can say about banishment, it's against the rules, is what you're saying.
It's not a good look. It's rude. Like, it's not her fault, is it?
I guess not, no. I mean, later on we'll see Creon does have his reasons, but it's still not great for her.
Medea and the nurse of the 2 boys weep together, with Medea praying to be hit by a thunderbolt to end her suffering. I mean, that might be a bit of an overreaction. She also prays to Artemis and Themis for Jason and his new wife Glauce to be struck down. Okay, so Jason actually went and got himself a new wife.
Yeah.
It didn't just betray her by, sleeping around. He went and got himself married, bye.
Yeah.
That's rude.
I'm so glad you're in the against Jason camp. You're going to have so much fun this episode.
Good. The chorus start getting a little bit nervous about what exactly she might be capable of. What do you think she's capable of?
Pretty much anything. We've seen her chop her own brother into little bits 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, and Jason didn't remember that and then went and slept with someone else.
Yeah, why didn't this occur to him? All the many times she's had people killed.
She then appeals to the woman folk of Corinth, the chorus, saying that Jason was her everything and that this has crushed her. I mean, I get you, girl. I get you. It has turned out despicable, and she complains how hypocritical it is that men can look to other women while women cannot do the same.
Surprisingly feminist stance from Euripides. I'm not sure when exactly this was written, but that caught me off guard first time I read it.
I guess women should be able to look at other men then, if men can do it too.
That's what she's saying. I think the general rule should just be, don't do what Jason's doing. Just be honest with each other.
Don't do the cheating, people. It's not nice.
Autocrat hot takes, don't be Jason.
Yeah, don't be Jason. Let's kill Jason.
Don't be Jason, and Theseus is still the worst. Anyway.
She then vows that she wants to bring Jason tumbling down. She already said she wanted him struck down, so, that's keeping on the right track.
This is quite an extensive part of the first act of the play, from what I remember, just Medea raging.
I mean, it's a good rage. Creon then enters.
Yep.
And he orders her and her son to live.
Okay, strong-arming right off the bat.
I imagine him marching and be like, I order you and your son to live.
Yeah. Probably said in ancient Greek, but otherwise pretty much spot on.
Medea is aggrieved and asks, why? Creon admits that he is afraid of what she will do to his daughter, and she is smart and spurned.
Yeah, I guess Creon is having the foresight that Jason seems to be lacking at this point, and Medea is a very dangerous individual. What will she do to people she's annoyed at?
Exactly. Medea offers up the line that she doesn't bear any grudge and that Creon has chosen to marry his daughter off as is his right.
Yeah, which she totally feels and is her real emotion, Creon. Please believe her.
Totally real. Creon is unmoved. I mean, he's kind of intelligent, unfortunately. So again, orders her out, despite Medea's begging. I can imagine her being like, please, no, crossing her finger behind her back. Please, no, I won't do anything.
She probably brought out the Bambi eyes.
And Creon being like, there's a mirror behind you. I can see you crossing your finger. Out.
Medea, you know you're not even putting your fingers behind your back while you do that.
Finally, she asks for one day's grace to get herself and her sons ready.
Yeah.
Creon agrees, essentially asking what the worst is that can happen.
That's not a good sign.
In any case, he tells her that if they're in the city at dawn the day after, they will be killed.
Okay.
Now, the moment Creon leaves, Medea starts thinking of the numerous ways she can kill Jason, Glauce, and Creon himself, provided she can find somewhere safe to run to. If she can't, she'll drop the subtlety and just kill them, accepting the consequences.
Okay, so either way they're dead, it's just a question of can I get away with it or not?
Exactly. So, what does she do? Does she come up with plan A? Does she come up with lots of plans?
Well, slightly over-the-top way of summarising this would be she comes up with plans A through ZZ. She comes up with a load of methods of how she can do this and eventually just settles on poisoning.
That's boring.
She gives herself a little hyping up speech, reminding herself that she's the granddaughter of Helios, for crying out loud. The chorus chime in for a bit to talk about how untrustworthy men are at this point.
They're right.
Well, they are in a sense, because at this point who should come in but Jason himself? Almost as if he was summoned by the untrustworthy men line. You're not a fan?
No.
Come on, I'm sure he's got nothing but good words at this point. He starts off strong by berating her. If only she could just accept what was happening instead of getting angry. But still, Jason will help his friend out of the goodness of his heart because he's such a special boy like that. You may sense my slight bias against Jason here. Medea then launches into a tirade against him, pointing out that she was the one who got the fleece, she was the one who made the dragon guarding its sleep, she got rid of Peleus, and she left everything behind for him. Now, as a reward, she gets kicked out, even after having given him children. I assume in ancient Greece this was seen as more important, as she says that she would have understood Jason's actions if they were childless.
Yeah, I guess, it's a bit like the King of England, like Henry VIII, oh, you didn't give me an heir, bye.
Yeah, Henry VIII approves of this comment. She then says that, famous as she is for the terrible crimes she committed for Jason, she now has nowhere to go, and she and her children will wind up as beggars.
Can't she just ask Aelianus to take her in?
I don't actually know. I have no idea. Maybe he doesn't have any room for house guests.
It's a god!
I mean, if his...
He probably lives in a galaxy!
Yeah, just make a bit of room in the Andromeda Galaxy. There's then a very nice line where she asks Zeus why he made it possible to pick out a real coin from a bad one, but not a bad man from a good one. Which I quite like that.
Yeah, it's a nice
symbolism.
Analogy.
Yeah. Jason then counters that really he should be thanking Aphrodite and not her, given that Aphrodite made Medea fall in love with him in the first place, leading to all these good consequences for him. Besides, because of all this, she got to leave the horrible, barbarian, stinky land of her family and loved ones and come to live in shiny, civilized Greece. So really, shouldn't you be grateful?
I'm sure that's going to be going very well with her.
Yeah, she's also famous now, which she would never have been back in grubby Colchis. I think he's missing the point a little bit here.
He's missing a lot of the point. Like, he stepped over the point, rolled down the hill, and went to America instead.
Yeah. The point has by now moved on to China, he's in America.
Exactly.
Yeah, you get the idea. He also says that all of this was actually part of a grand selfless plan, shushing her protest as he does so. He claims that he wasn't driven by lust to go after Glauce, but instead so that they could be rich, and his sons could have royal half-brothers, so they could all be one big, ethically questionable, happy family together. He then levels the interesting accusation that she is experiencing sexual jealousy, and that's why she's upset. After all, if a certain component of married life of women is bad, Jason claims, everything goes wrong. He then says if only children could be had without women in the process.
He keeps digging a hole for himself, more and more and more and more.
Yeah. Bad news for you, bucko, by the way. Women can have children without men in some species, such as aphids, Komodo dragons, etc., in a process called parthenogenesis, but not the other way around.
And even humans this day can have them without men.
Yeah.
It's rarer and scientifically not fully there yet, but it's starting, so
yeah. Jason would not approve of IVF, is what we're going for, is it?
It's not even IVF, women alone, with just their bone and marrow.
Jason wouldn't approve. The chorus berates Jason at this point for leaving Medea, and she herself essentially asks how dare he with all these statements. Jason tries to calm her down, but she rages that's what's actually going on is he's getting on a bit, and a wife from Asia just isn't going to bring him respect anymore.
That's rude and racist.
Well, she's making the point about barbarian Colchis, I assume. I don't think it's about race. But basically Jason's having a midlife crisis in Medea's estimation. Jason again uses the bit that this second marriage is so he can ensure the safety of his children with Medea by having more children with a princess. Why can't you just understand that? Medea rejects any help he might offer her.
Yeah, she would do.
Jason says she should be grateful and that being exiled is her fault because she was overheard cursing Creon and his family. Medea doubles down by saying that she is a curse on his line as well as that of Creon. Jason essentially says, well, I don't need to listen to this, and leaves, saying he's done his best.
He's done nothing!
Good job, Jason, you special boy.
He's not done a good job.
Yes, but Jason in his own mind is Daddy's golden boy.
Sure.
Medea chases him out, saying that all he's really thinking about right now is how long he's been away from his hot new wife.
He was already leaving Medea, you're being a bit overreacting right now.
Yeah. The chorus complain again, yada yada yada. Now, at this point, we have Aegeus showing up.
Ooh.
Do you remember Aegeus, Theseus' dad?
I do. He's actually on his way back from asking the Delphic oracle why he and his wife can't have children.
Yeah.
She gave some strange answer about not uncorking the wine flask before he gets home.
Yeah, very odd.
Very odd.
Anyway, on a completely unrelated note, he's on his way to Trozen and his friend Pythias to ask about it.
Ooh.
Pythias, the one who will become the grandfather of Theseus in due course.
Yeah. Aegeus arrives and presumably sees Medea and asks her what's wrong, and she tells him the whole story. Probably going like, nah, and this happened, and like Jason, and blah 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 blah. Aegeus is appalled, and although he won't take her away himself, he promises her safety in his kingdom of Athens, should she be able to get there. So he's not going to help her get there. She just has to go there.
Yeah.
Medea makes him swear, like pinky swear, an oath by Helios and Gaia, that he'll help her and protect her from her enemies.
Okay, a
Like,
bit of an insurance policy there.
Again, pinky swear you will protect me and that you will die trying to protect me if needs be.
Also, Gaia's relevant again for the first time in forever.
Yeah. Haven't heard about her in a while. Aegeon does so and leaves. Medea is now ready to take her revenge.
Oh dear.
She concocts a plan to get Jason back in the house and act all contrite, offering a dress and gold crown to Glauce as a present taken by her sons. However, they will be laced with poison, so anyone who touches them or her will die.
Wow.
She then resolves to kill her own children by Jason too.
Oh dear.
I mean, that's rude. They haven't done anything wrong.
They haven't, no.
But she thinks that she's got nothing left now, having in her own eyes made the mistake long ago when she went to Jason's side, so she puts her plan into action. The chorus begs her not to do this, but she is irresolute. Jason is duly summoned and she begs his forgiveness, letting the children run to him and saying all is well between them.
Yep.
The children take Jason's hands and Medea cries, hiding the reason, obviously, before claiming they are tears of remorse.
Yeah. I'm assuming Jason said something just before this of, man, what a nice family. I'm so happy that this will always stay the same and my children will be perfectly safe forever.
Exactly. Jason is mollified and does the equivalent of ruffling his children's hair, saying that they will be big, strong men one day, and alongside their inevitable brothers, they will be prominent in Corinth.
Oh, the heartstrings.
Medea breaks down but gives a vague answer about the children when Jason asks. He assures her he will provide for them, and she asks for him to beg that the children be allowed to stay while she goes into exile.
Okay.
Jason promises to intervene with Glauce, and she presents him with gifts to give to her.
Yeah.
A dress and a crown. How nice!
Yeah, how nice. These totally unsuspicious presents that you've just given. Wife of mine who is in no way involved with sorcery.
Now, Jason tries to tell her Glauce doesn't need that, but Medea insists. She's like, no, but please give them to her.
You can see her eyes slowly going red and she hovers off the ground going, please give them to her, Jason.
So off Jason goes with the two boys carrying the presents.
Yep.
She gets news that the princess has agreed to let them stay from a tutor who brings her children back. Medea now knows that she has to kill her children, and that she will never see them grow up and marry.
Right. Oh boy. However, she actually falters when the moment comes.
Ooh, does she?
It's only for a moment, though, as she cannot allow them to fall prey to the rage of the Corinthians when the other shoe drops and they inevitably connect the dots with the boys who brought the presents. Medea sends the boys indoors and waits for news. Eventually, a messenger shows up telling her to run. He tells the story that Glauce had been unmoved by Jason's appeals until she saw the presents. She put the dress and crown on, and her mouth begins to froth, the blood leaves her skin, and out of the crown shoots a jet of fire. Medea now definitely knows what needs to be done, so into the house she goes, crying a lot as she does. Because, well, Glauce is now dead, and once she dies, Creon also comes into the house and touches his daughter in grief and also dies.
Oof.
At this point, we hear a lot of offstage screaming from two children as... yeah.
They are killed.
Yes. Now, apparently, there are traditions that Medea didn't kill her children, but the Corinthians did, and they were the ones who asked Euripides to write this version which absolved them. All sounds very funny, but we will be sticking with Euripides' narrative for today. As the cries fall silent, Jason rushes up screaming murder, ordering the doors to the house to be broken down. Medea then rises from the house in a chariot which is being pulled by dragons, which we saw earlier, with the bodies of her children in the chariot with her. That's quite a look. Now, this chariot was, as we've seen before, from Helios, and he sent it to save her. Jason screams at her for killing their children, and Medea replies that she's hurt Jason in his heart, like she intended.
Because she was hurt in her heart.
Yeah, Jason says, well, she's also hurt, but Medea says, well, I'm willing to pay that price to hurt you. There's then a brilliant exchange where they both say they hate the sound of each other's voices.
Then stop talking to each other.
Yeah. Jason asks for his son's bodies to bury them, but Medea refuses, saying she will bury them herself in Hera's temple to ensure those who hate her won't harm them. Kind of sensible when you think about all the stuff that's been going down so far. She will then be purified and live with Aegeus. She then prophesies that Jason will not die the death of a hero, which we'll come to in a moment.
Is she Gaia now?
She might be Gaia. Yeah.
Prophecies.
She may be Gaia. Jason appeals for vengeance, but Medea points out, well, you're the one who broke your oaths and lied, in the sense of how favourably are the gods going to look on you now. Jason again appeals for his son's bodies, but Medea refuses. She then flies off into the sky as Jason curses her. End scene.
Ooh.
We kind of know the rest of the story. Robert Graves adds a bit where Medea, after leaving Corinth, stays with Heracles for a hot minute in return for curing the madness that made him kill Megara and his kids before he started the tasks. However, he was in Thebes, and Graves says that Creon was king of Thebes, so that didn't work out. It's quite confusing. Anyway, she became the wife of Aegeus, and was there when Theseus later showed up. Medea wanted to kill Theseus, and so tried to poison him with aconite brought from the Scythian coast. She'd had a son with Aegeus at this point, called Midas, so I can see that she might want obstacles to Midas succeeding the throne out of the way, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was only Aegeus recognising the coat of arms on Theseus' sword that meant Theseus was stopped from drinking the poison, and this is something that we covered more in episode 19, if I remember correctly. Medea managed to get away from the aftermath of this by summoning clouds to obscure her and making a getaway.
Nice.
She was barred from Athens and so went to Italy, where she gave snake charm lessons to a people called the Marubians. She even went to Thessaly and tried to win a beauty competition against the literal goddess Thetis. She didn't win.
Fair.
That may surprise you. She eventually wound up back in Colchis, the land of her ancestors. This is because her uncle Perses had taken over Colchis by ousting her father. Now, there is a Perses who's sometimes listed as the father of her mother Hecate, so this is either the son of Perseus we mentioned before, or else her simultaneous uncle and grandfather, this person Perses.
Fair.
She and Midas, her son by Aegeus, travelled back, installed her father Aeetes back on his throne, and made Colchis bigger to include somewhere now called Medea.
Nice.
Medea is around about where Iran meets the Caspian Sea, so we're quite a way away from Colchis, which is roughly in modern Georgia in the Caucasus. Apparently, the name of the subsequent people, the Medians, comes from her, so we can assume that the Median Empire, which precedes the Persians, is meant to somehow come from her, maybe through her son Midas. Now, if we're talking about the end of her story, she never actually dies.
Is she immortal as well?
Yes, she gains immortality and becomes a ruler in the Elysian fields. Either she or Helen weds Achilles, or what I assume is the ghost of Achilles. See the Trojan War for further details.
Now what of Jason? What happens to him?
Well, you will be happy to know he wandered around friendless and alone, loathed by the gods who he had offended by spurning Medea. When an old man, he travelled back to Corinth and sat among the ruins of the Argo, reminiscing about the past when he was a glorious hero and generally feeling sorry for himself. He was on the point of doing something foolish, let's say, when the front of the Argo detached and fell on him, causing his death, just as Medea had predicted long ago. This prow would later be made a constellation by Poseidon.
Which constellation is it?
I don't actually remember. I didn't think to look that up.
We need to look it up and write it somewhere.
Yeah, we can put it in the show notes once we found it.
Yeah.
So that is the whirlwind story of Jason and Medea.
It's an interesting story. I like it. Lots of drama.
You can see why I was so hyped to tell you this story and why my notes are currently 6 pages long.
Yes.
I will say, as a final addition, which I haven't got the notes for here, Medea also gives her name, like Oedipus did 20 episodes ago, to the Medea complex. I don't have any research on me here, but I will put something in the description once I've found the references for it. So, let's all take a deep breath after this bout of drama, and that's the end of today's episode. So thank you all very much for listening.
Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week. That was a wild ride, right?
It was, yes. So what was the plot when you were reading it when you told me, oh, I